Okay. Hello, everyone. I see we still have a few more people trickling in. Like Mike said, my name is Tate Moeller. Today we're going to talk about one of the products that Todd actually, the first one he spoke about in his keynote yesterday, and that's agent analytics. So today we're going to talk about kind of what Pendo's been working on for the last year. We didn't have a big main stage event last year where we got to talk about this product. So it's been around for a few months, but there's still a lot of folks that have not learned about it. So we're really excited to get this time with you today. So let's dive in. Like I said, my name is Tate. I am the marketing lead for agent analytics here at Pendo. I am joined by my product counterpart, a portfolio product manager here at Pendo named Kruti Karsane. She is the lead product manager on agent analytics. And then I'm delighted to have a power user of agent analytics on stage with us here today too. This is Melissa Wood. She is a senior product manager at Quorum, and they have already launched an awesome agent, and she's going to talk a little bit about that and how Pendo has been helping them in their journey as well. So Todd talked a lot about this yesterday. The way users are leveraging software is changing. And what traditionally Pendo has been able to show you, how users are navigating your traditional click-through software, where they're getting stuck, what's bringing them back, what is driving the most adoption. And in this new era where sometimes you log into a piece of software and you're just prompted with a blank search bar or just a conversational box that you actually tell the software how you'd like to get started, what you want to accomplish. And for Pendo, we've always been on this mission to enable our users to deliver exceptional user experiences for their customers or their employees. So for us to be able to enable that into this new era of AI, we knew that we were going to be able to have to look at what those conversations are that are happening and see how those agents are impacting the rest of your product behavior and outcomes. And that's what we're going to dig into today. It's funny, it's been about 3 years now since generative AI really exploded. And in our customer conversations over the last 2 years, 2024, 2025, a lot of the expectations from leadership or the product strategizing at that time was, should we be using AI? Should we be building an agent? Can we build an agent? It's been very experimental. Perhaps a lot of you are in maybe a pilot phase of some sort, either for internal AI agents or for customer-facing agents that you are building. And what we've noticed is a sharp change, even at the beginning of this year. Now we've been investing in AI for a couple years, and senior leadership is starting to asking, hey, is this actually worth it? Should we continue investing in this? How is it actually impacting our user experience? Is it driving more value, or is it actually introducing unknown risk? And we know that right now, every company here is making one or both of these AI bets. With those customer-facing agents, there's a lot of opportunity. So you're thinking, the way that you think about it is probably, well, we can actually make our product a lot easier to use. This will help improve retention and reduce drop-off and frustration. Maybe if right now you're thinking about an AI search tool, maybe there's parts of your product that people have to dig for resources, or it takes them a really long time to complete a process, and you just want to streamline that whole thing. And the expectation is that you're going to see those sort of, with the AI agent, you want to see an improvement in retention or NPS. Users are happier, they're more excited, they're able to accomplish more. And then revenue. Maybe you're thinking about an AI agent is going to be your ticket to further market differentiation from other competitors in your space, and it's going to be a new advantage for you. And so it's a strong bet, and there's some real opportunity, and you really want to be able to prove that this is something that can take you into this new AI era. For employee-facing agents, I'm curious, a show of hands, how many people now use one of these types of AI agents in their work? Help with their, yeah? Okay, so same thing. Now we have access to these tools, and maybe they're homegrown, maybe you're not using the third-party ones, but it's still the investment. The idea is that we're going to see some sort of return on efficiency or reduced costs. Manual click-through processes, maybe your onboarding process at work was really manual. Now you're going to add some more AI, make it more agentic, allow users to ask questions in sort of endless resources. I hear about a lot of Slack bots, things like that, where people can get to information more quickly. There's a lot more conversational usage of your products happening than there once was. The interesting thing with no matter which of these two bets that companies are making, what we have found is that it's a similar problem for each of these folks. A new visibility gap that's really centered around value. And interestingly, it's all about the user. So if you are building an AI agent right now, you probably are using a tool that's shown like here on the left, some sort of technical performance tool. It's primarily for the development side. It helps you understand if your agent is running. How long does it take it to respond? How much is it costing us as a business? It's giving you metrics like latency. You can see endless logs and actually manually look through what users are asking. But for the product managers, or for the folks that are in charge of driving AI adoption, when they jump into these tools, there's no way for them to quickly understand, are people actually using this, and is it helping? Where are they getting stuck? What are they asking, right? We've had a customer that was in our early design partnership who had spent a year building an AI agent for their users. They released it out. They had no idea the scope of questions that people were going to be asking this agent, things that they wanted to accomplish. And it's, AI is non-deterministic. It kind of went off script, started responding how it wanted. They actually rolled it back because it was introducing so much risk, and they didn't feel like they could quickly wrap their arms around all of the things that people were asking and how their agent was responding. And they didn't like that didn't have that sense of control, right? So on the right-hand side here, this is really what Pendo has been most focused on then for the last year. And this risk of not being able to see that sort of visibility and answer those more business questions about the impact of this agent, if you're not able to measure this and see this right now, there is real risk behind it. So you see here a very realistic chat on the left-hand side of the screen. The user goes in, they ask something, the agent says, I'm sorry, I'm unable to answer this question. The user actually explained how frustrated they were in the moment. A lot of folks just jump out right there. Maybe your user is willing enough to give you a thumbs down, but most often, as we all know, user frustration within any traditional product, and especially an AI agent, usually goes undetected. And then after that, maybe you did get some feedback. Let's say in this scenario that they did give a thumbs down, they submitted a support ticket. It's still not the product manager specifically that is the first to know about that. Often they have to go and ask the back-end team, hey, where are issues popping up? Have you found any bugs? What's been reported? And then the user typically never returns. And you might not even know who they were, what was going on in that moment, and you might not have a way to reach back out to them if you do fix it or you want to connect with them. And what the issue with that, with the finding out last, is we want to make you more proactive. We don't want you to have to sit there and wait until a user is raising their hand and complaining and submitting a ticket, because then it makes you feel like you're constantly reacting to what's going on. And again, you don't have that sense of control that I always know what's going on. I know how AI is responding. I know what users are asking. And the biggest takeaway from this slide up here, you see that system, that is not going to scale, right? If you don't know what's causing the bucket to leak, you don't know why people are leaving, and you're not even able to see it, you can't design the right solution, you can't implement the right fixes for your agent, you can't bring to your team the right data that you need to move forward. So we're going to show you what we have built to give you the right system to help you scale. And before we do that, I wanted to call out, our team did excellent discovery starting in February of last year when they were really trying to figure out the interesting thing about AI agents and what's the proper way to measure them and report on their success. A year ago especially, there was no book. There was no book that was going to tell our team what we should build into this product. And by our, I'm the marketing person that just gets to tell the cool story of the work they did. But for their team, there was no book, there was nothing, we couldn't even ask ChatGPT, hey, what is the best way that we should measure how well you're helping our users? So they did excellent discovery with our users. And what they found is that the principles of how you measure the effectiveness of an agent are the same as what you've been applying to your products for years. In order to deliver an exceptional user experience, no matter if it's agentic or it's a traditional click-through software, you first need to understand what are users trying to accomplish? What is it that they're trying to achieve? And who are those people? And do they have different needs? Next, where are they running into issues? For the things they're going into my app to try and figure out, what stalls them? What gets them upset? Why do they leave? And lastly, for the people that stay and the people that are in there and really leveraging our product, what outcomes are they seeing? What's driving that value? And how do I scale that for other people and turn it into marketing, all of that. It's the same principles, and this is what we've really put into a product, one whole product for you that we're going to dive into next. With that, I'll hand it off to Kruthi.
Thanks, Tate. You can keep that. I'm
Okay.
just going to be on the computer here.
All right, no worries.
All right, so I'm going to actually get to show you agent analytics in action. But in order to do that, I want us to all step into the shoes of a product manager that works at Acme Travel. Acme Travel is a company that is focused on corporate travel and booking expenses. And so about a year ago, we, as the product managers for this solution, got the directive from our leadership that we have to build an AI assistant. Does that sound familiar to anyone here? Yeah? And I was just like, go build it. Figure it out. It'll be great. And when I first got that assignment, my thought was, let's go after the piece of work that will actually help us the most with ensuring our users can get the outcome that they want or need out of our software. And so we jumped into Pendo, and we actually took a look at our data. And the whole job when you have this type of business is to help people book travel. And so that's the first place I started, right? I took a look at our typical click-through workflow. And what I saw was that out of the 73 people that were entering that click-through workflow, only about 9% actually made it to the end and actually booked a flight. 10%. For a company whose whole job is to help you book travel, 10% is quite low. And so the job of the AI assistant that we want to build is going to be, can we actually make this a more effective workflow for users? Can we make it better, faster, more efficient, so that we actually get to the outcome of helping users book travel? Okay, so let's flash forward. We've built this AI agent, and it's been out for a few months to a small set of beta customers. Now we want to know, do we want to actually release this to more customers, or are there things that we need to work on before we do that? What are the types of questions people are asking this AI assistant? What are the places they're getting stuck? What are the things that they're doing on there that we didn't expect them to do? And luckily, we have Pendo and we have agent analytics, so we can actually go look at this data and identify what's going on. Okay, so when you first land on agent analytics, you get something that looks a little bit like this. This is an overview screen that gives you an idea of how your product is doing or your assistant is doing at a high level. And from our perspective, we can see that people are actually using it, so that's a positive signal, right? We've got 132 conversations in around the last 30 days. People are only going about 2 prompts in to the conversation, so they're not having a lot of back and forth on average. And then we also see that our retention is a little low, but I'm not too worried about that because booking travel is not something that happens that often within 30 days. So retention being low for that might be okay. I'll keep an eye on that over the long run. Unique visitors, unique accounts, you guys are used to this as Pendo customers. But then the interesting part here is that we can actually take a look and see, are we causing frustration for our users when they're using our AI agent? 10% is not too high, but I probably want to take a further look at this and see what's going on there. And the other bit that I can see here is that 34% of the time my agent is having problems or issues in answering user questions. So we might want to take a look at that as well. Okay, so just going through the screen again, I can see this concept over time, but then I can also see who my top visitors and top accounts are. Looking at this, I'm like, okay, I can reach out to these customers and learn more about what their experience has been, how things have been good, how things have been going bad. But instead of doing that, I actually want to do a deeper level of analysis to see if I even need to spend time going to chat with customers. So the next question I have is, what are the types of things people are using this for? Are they actually using it for what I expected them to use it for? Or are they using it for something entirely different that I didn't expect? That's where the use cases table comes in. So the use cases table is the place that you go to identify what types of tasks your users are trying to accomplish with your AI assistant. In our case, the top use case, so the top thing people are using this for, is booking travel arrangements, which is great, right? That's a positive signal. We looked at the data, we said that's the first use case that we want to tackle, and it turns out people are actually using it for that. With this table, I can also see how I'm performing against each use case that I'm looking at. So from our perspective, we're seeing that not only is this the top thing people are asking about, but the frustration is actually quite low compared to some of these other things that I'm seeing here. And then retention is fairly good, right? People are actually coming back and asking me questions about booking travel time in, time again. So that's a positive signal. The next question I have is this actually better, faster for our users? Like, is that actually increasing that conversion rate we talked about earlier? And again, because we're in the Pendo platform, we have the benefit of using all the other tools that are already available at our disposal. And so I've set up a funnel here where I can actually see, out of all the customers that started a chat with my assistant, how often did they actually end up booking travel? And here we can see that out of the 30 that started a conversation, 13 of them actually went through and booked travel. That's 43%. That's 3 times higher than what I was seeing in my typical click-through workflow. So another positive signal, right? It looks like things are headed in the right direction. We're accomplishing some of the outcomes that we were looking for. But before we open up this beta, I want to learn a few more things. I want to know, what else are people using this for that I might want to consider supporting? And then the second thing I want to know is, what are those issues that I saw earlier that my agent is running into, and is there anything there that I need to go and resolve? So we'll come back to our use case table here. And I can note that the next top used use case for my AI agent is retrieving trip history. Now, this might seem obvious to you guys, but I didn't think about this when I was PMing this and building out this AI assistant. And so it turns out this is not a use case that I had planned to support. And the data tells me that story as well. When you look at this, we see that there's 15% rage prompting, so people are upset at our AI assistant. And we're also seeing that there's 0% retention, so people are trying it and then not coming back to try it again for this particular use case because they're realizing it doesn't quite work for that. And so right from here, I can actually come in and watch a replay of that experience so I can see the entire back and forth of that experience. This is especially important if you've got an AI assistant where things get impacted outside of the AI assistant and it's not just a back and forth conversation. But for my case, it's just a back and forth conversation. And so what I can do is just open up the conversation itself and see what the user interaction was and see what I might want to consider solving for or how the AI agent is actually responding today. And here we can see this person's asking for their trip history and we're acting like the person didn't ask a question, and then they're getting upset at us and starting to rage prompt us. Okay, so I'm gonna link this over to my engineering team so that they can take a look at that and see what it might take to actually support that particular use case. I think I'll also do the same for rescheduling flights, although that one seems okay. And there are a few more here, but I think as long as we support the top 3, we should be fine there. Okay, so the next question I have is, what are the issues that are contributing to bad experiences inside of my AI assistant? And looking through these, I can see all the places where user intent was not met for the user when they were chatting with my AI assistant. And then the issues that are being surfaced are the places where the AI agent wasn't able to respond correctly. And I can see that there's a few issues here. I can see how many times each issue has happened, how many conversations, how many visitors have encountered it, as well as when that issue last occurred. Now for me, I'm looking through this, and this one hasn't actually occurred that much, but it did occur the latest. And I'm noticing that it's about refusing to book travel. And again, we talked about this, right? This is the only job that we were supposed to actually do really, really well. And so I'll go ahead and open this and take a look at what's going on. Let's read this conversation together. So the user asks, can you help me book travel? We say, that's a great travel question. Let me provide you with helpful information and guidance. I'm going to Florida, and we just provide pro tips. So we're not even nudging the user in this case to book travel. This seems like one I might want to get ahead of, because if it keeps happening to other users, then I can't really open up that beta to more users because we're not doing the one thing that we're marketing that we're actually going to help users with. And so with that, right from Pendo, I can create a ticket, and that will auto-populate the summary, the reproduction steps, the impacts, so all the visitors that are actually encountering this. It'll also give me the tools, the models that were used, as well as a link directly to the conversation. So when I send this over to my engineering team, they'll easily be able to find the conversation, take a look at what happened, and help me troubleshoot how we might resolve this particular issue. I can go ahead and copy that, put it in that ticket, and then send it back over. Now, as we know, AI hasn't really solved all of our engineering problems quite yet. And so this might take me a little bit of time to actually get these issues resolved, as well as start to support these particular use cases. But the thing is, I already opened this up to users. So what I want to do next is I want to put some guardrails around the experience so that I can nudge users into a happy path and they're not left hanging or in one of those rageful states while I'm working on fixing a few more things before we open up this beta. And once again, being part of the Pendo platform, I can use guides. And with embedded guides, I can essentially offer suggested prompts to my users, where if they click on any of these, we'll auto-populate the prompts that we actually know will work for users. And hopefully, if they use one of these, we'll actually guide them into the right direction and guide them into a happy path, so that while we're fixing all those other problems, they have a good experience and are encouraged to come back in. In addition to that, when we go resolve that retrieve trip history problem or that use case, then we can bring that in as a suggested prompt so that users that have tried it before are nudged to try it again, and they're not left hanging the next time that they try it. And so just in a few minutes, we've done a few things, right? We've identified the use case that we want to tackle. We've identified that our AI assistant is actually better at resolving for that particular use case. We've learned that we do have adoption, but we've got some challenges that we need to resolve for before we go ahead and open up this beta. We've learned about what our users actually want to use this AI assistant for. We've given them this open text box, and they can type literally anything in, but I have the data that tells me what it is I need to focus on. And then we've also identified some issues that we might want to resolve before we open up this beta. And finally, we've put some guardrails around our experience to help our users get to the happy path while we're fixing under the covers the other aspects of this experience that aren't so good. So we've been PMs for Acme Travel, and we've learned a lot of things. But at the end of the day, Acme Travel is a fake company, and I am actually a PM at Pendo, not at Acme Travel. And so we actually wanted to make sure that you guys got to hear from a real-life customer who is having a real-life experience in building an agent and is running into real challenges and has been able to use Pendo Agent Analytics to resolve some of those challenges. And so I'll go ahead and hand it over to Melissa to walk you through that. Melissa?
Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Wood. I am a senior product manager at Quorum.
The big green one.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. And so my role at Quorum is to oversee our AI product strategy across our suite of products. I've been with Quorum about 7 years and been a Pendo user almost as long. We use Pendo to track, everything our users are doing, and I also help with our product operations as well. So before I talk a little bit about the agent, I want to give a little bit of background of what Quorum is. So Quorum is an AI-powered, unified intelligence system for public affairs professionals. So we have users across corporations, associations, nonprofits, all trying to track what's going on with the government and figure out, how it is relevant to them and how they should influence. And so with our platform, we house all of the legislative data, the regulatory data, as well as their own CRM data so they can understand the relationship history. And so we were kind of really perfect for an AI solution on top, given all of the data we're able to bring into one platform. And so with that, about a year and a couple months ago, we launched our AI assistant, Quincy. And so Quincy empowers our users to get information really quickly. Instead of needing to go and search for it or even know, what were the trends, they could go into Quincy and say, help prep me for this meeting with a lawmaker, and we could tell them, here's what's top of mind for the lawmaker based on what they're talking about in their recent vote history. Here's your relationship history with that lawmaker, and any other information that might be relevant. So any PAC contributions, advocacy work, maybe facilities you have in their district, all of that information. We're able to train our Quincy assistant, not just to retrieve the data, but how to provide insights that are relevant to government affairs professionals. And so as you can imagine, Quincy can answer a ton of use cases, just like the Acme Travel case, so it was a lot that we needed to track. And so, like I said, we launched this January last year. So when we launched it, we needed to figure out a system on how to monitor usage before Agent Analytics was available for us in Pendo. So our system was super manual. When we launched it, we wanted to know things like what percentage of our users are actually using Quincy on a regular basis. For the first time, we wanted to know what types of questions they're being asked and how is our agent doing and responding to them. Do we have issues? Do we need to expand our use cases? All of that information we wanted to know. So the manual system that we put together is we used Pendo's track events to get the inputs and outputs from the agent tool. We exported those into Google Sheets, so then we could layer AI on top of that, and I built a prompt just to try to classify all of the inputs by use cases that I thought I was kind of seeing common. Then, so that we could share the results, we just exported this and had a sync to Looker Studio. Our development team also used Datadog to kind of do some traceability if there was an issue, but that was totally separate to any overall usage information, use cases filtering, any trends like that. So as you can imagine, this manual system, apart from being super time consuming, had a lot of issues. The first is that it didn't live alongside our usage data. So when I was reporting to leadership of how the agent was doing, it wasn't relative to everything else. So I could say we had this many chats this month or this many users this month, but what does that mean relative to all of the users that logged in or our usual retention that we see? And so I wasn't able to provide that full context to stakeholders. The other thing is I had no way to see any emerging issues. Like I said, I used a prompt in OpenAI to kind of understand, look for these inputs and classify them that way. If we launched a new use case, I needed to go and manually tweak that prompt and do the whole testing and eval set on that. And so it was impossible for me to understand trends based on that system. And then the third one is that this Quincy assistant served a lot of our personas, and so it was important for our product and design team members to all have access to it, not just me. Unfortunately, because it was in this separate system outside of Pendo, it was really hard for them to understand how to run reports. It's not really great for 5 team members to be on one Google Sheet filtering it, and so because of that, we just weren't able to share information across our product and design team members. So once agent analytics became available, it really solved a lot of our problems. The most favorite part that I had with it is how intuitive it was. So once we set it up, which was super quick for our engineering team, I didn't really have to learn anything new. I already knew how to use Pendo. I could use my same segments there. I knew how to, do all the filters, build the reports, integrate it with my dashboard. It was super intuitive to start understanding the signals. And I could solve a lot of the problems that I had where, I could see everything relative to our full usage, and I also could uncover new themes and emergent issues in real time, which I couldn't do before with the manual system. The other thing I really loved with it is I could really map out what our users were doing before interacting with our chat and after, and so maybe Quincy was informing them that a bill mattered to them. I could actually see, did they track the bill after that, or was the Quincy answer not helpful? If it provided them content, did they go and use that content? What led them to go to Quincy in the first place, and is it visible enough in the product? All of this I was able to do once we had agent analytics, which was super, super helpful. And overall, a couple key learnings from building our first agent in Quorum, and especially as I reflect back of the tools that we would have now available, I think automated and informative reporting is super key. For most of us, I think building your first AI feature or your first agent is going to be very high visibility to leadership. It's a big investment that you need to make, and so it's really important to make sure that you can report very quickly on how it's doing to leadership to get more buy-in. The other thing that I learned is trying to track agent usage is a little different than how most product managers track things before. You would track the clicks, the percent of users that may be converted, and all of the things that you can do now in Data Explorer. But understanding user experience with conversational agents really requires you to see the full input and output interaction. So it took a lot of time, I learned so much by just reading through how they would prompt it, how they would respond to it, all of that information. And so in order to do that, you really need a tool, and because trying to do that in a spreadsheet was impossible. I couldn't see the full conversation. So I think that's really important as we think about how we're in the new way kind of monitoring user behavior with agents. And the third thing that kind of goes off of the other point of how you need to track this and how time-consuming it can be, it's really important to try to invest in a tool instead of build one yourself. That way you can spend the effort where it matters on understanding your users and building your product instead of some internal tooling. And so I'm really happy to say we have seen a lot of success with our Quincy tool. We've been able to add new use cases for Quincy, new data sets over the past year or so, and we have achieved a 63.5% stickiness, which using Pendo's wonderful benchmarking tool puts us in the high category. So just to tell you a little bit about what's next for Quincy, if you're interested, we definitely are building the agent to do more personalized experience for users and also doing more for them in an automated fashion. So for example, one thing we did is not just Q&A with the assistant, but we're now auto-populating a summary for every user about why a bill might matter to them. We also are launching in just a few weeks a agent completely on top of Quincy, but now it lives in customers' calendars. So if you're a lobbyist, you get meeting prep delivered to you right away from the agent, and then after the meeting, you can just speak to the agent about how the meeting went, and it will log it in our system so you can track that relationship over time. So we're super excited. We've got a couple agents already planned after the ones I talked about, and this is kind of what we plan to do the rest of the year, is build a lot more agentic workflows to users. So with that, I will turn it back to you to talk a little bit about...
Melissa, please, give it up for Melissa. Thank you. Awesome. So you just got to hear from Melissa how she's been using agent analytics in order to improve her product experience. And we've spoken to a lot of you over the last couple of months, and we've learned that while we're helping a lot of you with the similar problems as what Melissa just stated, there's still a lot of pain points with building agents, and you still need a lot of help. And there's 3 areas in particular that you've come back to us with and said, hey, we could use more help in these particular areas, because they're actually pretty painful today. So I'd love to show you what we're going to be working on over the next few months to help with those pain points and hopefully make agent building a little bit easier. You might have seen this from Todd yesterday, but I'll go into a little bit more detail. The first area that we're going to be focused on over the next few months is advancing our issue detection. Today, when we give you issues, we're essentially observing the conversation, identifying where user intent's not met, and then surfacing those issues to you. As we spoke to more and more of you, and frankly, as we built our own agent, we learned that it's not only important to know where those issues are being observed, but it's also important to understand where exactly underneath the conversation in that information layer those issues are happening so that you can pinpoint what you need to fix. And so over the next few months, we'll be starting to collect the tracing layer so that we can understand where your agent is getting stuck in a trace. And we can also understand where your agent isn't actually following the instructions that you've given it. And then we'll surface those issues back up to you with a lot more detail than we do today. The second area that we've heard a lot about from you guys is about being able to reduce the time between identifying an issue and getting to a solution. And so we'll be doing things like recommending actions on issues, as well as use cases where you are having your users experience some rage. And not only that, we'll be enabling it so that you can actually chat with agent mode, or now we're calling it Leo, with those conversations and that back and forth and that tracing data, so that you can detect patterns and brainstorm solutions with our solutions, and you're able to do it with all the right context in place. And then the final piece that we're going to be working on is impact analysis. Now this is important because what we've learned as we've built our own agents is that it's never a 2 birds, 1 stone type of situation with agents. It requires a lot of little tinkering, a lot of small changes, changing a word here, changing a word there in the instructions and the tool descriptions in order to get the agent to work the way that you want to in real life. And the problem with making all these little changes is that ultimately it's really, really hard to track what's actually having an impact with real users and what's not. And so that's where our impact detection and tracking will come in. We're going to enable you to track the changes that you're making and see how those changes are reacting with real users in production so that you can understand which changes you need to promote and which changes you need to keep working on. And so with this cycle, with those changes and identifying the ones that aren't working, then we'll go back into issues, making sure that you have the right solutions, and then testing those again. And hopefully, through this roadmap that we're going to execute on over the next few months, we'll make agent building just a little bit easier for you guys and ourselves as well. I think that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, we do have about a little under 10 minutes to take some questions if there is anyone in the audience. Oh, perfect. I'll start right here, yeah.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Michelle. Thanks for the great
Michelle.
overview. Really curious on the funnel comparison that you did before and after with the agents. With the agent being conversational and not having a button, how did you connect the booking of the flight through, like what was the setup in Pendo to say that's the funnel step?
Yeah, that's a great question. So because we have the conversation, we know when the first prompt was entered into your conversational AI. And so that's the starting point. And then for our case, we had a track event for when a user actually books travel. And we were able to, within the context of the funnel, identify, okay, when did the user enter this funnel? And then when did they actually end up booking a flight? And I think we have a 90-minute timeout or something like that with funnels. And so that's how we were able to get that set up. The next phase for us in funnels is going to be, can we actually let you choose the type of topics that users are actually talking about inside of your agent, and then through selecting those topics, being able to see what their actions are afterwards.
Yeah, question back there.
Yes, so I was wondering when I saw this yesterday, obviously there are AI hallucinations, and the longer a conversation goes on, the greater the chance of that hallucinations until the AI seems to reach a tipping point at which the conversation becomes useless. Since it's a conversation with the user, how will you account for that? At what point will the AI say cut off and say, I'm sorry, you have to start a new chat, or I cannot solve your problem, or something along those lines? Can we set that, or is that something that's automatically included?
You're talking about in our issue detection, or?
No, I'm talking about like when a conversation goes on for a long period of time,
Yeah.
and then the AI just kind of starts to regurgitate what it said before, and it can't record new conversation anymore.
Yeah. So you're talking about you building your own agents.
Yes, after we build our own agents, will
Yep.
will we be able to set a tipping point, or is that something that's included automatically where the AI realizes it can't actually give new information to the user because it's reached that length of conversation?
Yeah. So we're actually not feeding any of this data to your agent today. And so within your AI experience and the AI experience that you're building, you would set that tipping point yourself in the context of that. Melissa, I don't know if you have any tips or tricks on that as you've built Quincy.
Yeah, one thing I can say is when that conversation, if somebody's going back and forth for a really long time, in Pendo, the issue is classified by specific input and output. So it's not just, was this entire conversation an issue? You can kind of see through the whole thread when an issue might have arisen, and that might help inform you, oh, like I'm seeing consistently more hallucinations after this tipping point, and then your team of engineers can kind of add that guardrail behind.
Awesome.
Good question.
All right, thank you.
Yep. The right to the right over here. Yep.
Hi, my question is about model evolution and the agents. You know, I saw from the screenshot, you know, basically champion challenger on models and things like that. I was interested, how are y'all accounting for, I mean, these models are evolving so quickly. I mean, you know, and so how are y'all handling that shift? Or are you testing ahead of time as you're creating your models to understand its impact? And I'm just curious about, I know you've had it a year, so you've been at least through one or two. Mm-hmm. Is it improving or affecting its performance significantly? We're developing an agent, and I'm interested in kind of, you know, how it's affected yours.
Yeah, that's a good question. So one thing we were concerned about is even if the underlying LLM that we were using, like GPT-4, for example, they made changes to it, and we didn't even explicitly make that change. So what we did is we built kind of a golden set. And so this was, our team said, for these inputs, we would expect these outputs, you know, for this bill, we know that it says this thing. And then we had to do some more complex things of what did President Trump say today? That's going to change every day. So then we kind of said, this is the path we would expect the agent to take every time to get that answer. And so what we do both daily and before we deploy any changes is run that golden set and make sure, great, like we're still at the accuracy that we would expect. Or if there was a regression, was that something we did, or we need to prompt it a little bit differently. That has made it easier then for us to upgrade models, but they're not straightforward for us right now to upgrade models. There's a lot of prompt tuning that we need to do still, because even going from Claude to OpenAI, the way that they will kind of do reasoning and all that stuff is different. But I think it was basically impossible for us to understand how well it was doing over time without that eval set. We really needed that.
Do you want to add anything, Kruti?
Yeah, for sure. And those are the kinds of changes that we're seeing that users have to make. And the thing of it is, like, these new models keep coming out, and they keep getting supposedly better and better. And sometimes they're better at your use case, sometimes they're not. And so what we're noticing is, like, you'll need the eval set to give you an idea of what that will look like. But then when it's in production, it might not react quite the same because of the fact that a user can literally type anything in, and the AI agent can literally respond with anything. And so that's where we've heard users need a lot of help, and that's where our impact analysis, which we're working on at the moment, will help you identify, okay, if I'm making all these small changes and I'm doing it in versions of experiments, so I'm only releasing this out to 20% of my users to see how the data reacts, we'll have the capabilities to let you identify, is that actually better or worse for that set of users?
Yeah. Yep.
Hello. Kruti, first off, thank you. Great session. I was here in 2024 and was looking forward to more confetti. But Melissa, my question's for you. I've had a lot of conversations here so far about how to drive adoption with AI. I work in insurance, very highly regulated, and we are just struggling to get our users to trust our AI tools.
Yeah, that's a good question. We've done a couple different things for that. First, we've had kind of our power users at different organizations, because we have the same thing, you know, there's a high risk of you know, the AI telling you a bill doesn't matter and you're not engaging on that bill, you know? And so we had a lot of users that were a little nervous about it. So we kind of took like a crawl, walk, run approach. First, it was like a summary of the bill. They could look at it or not look at it, but it was there for them, and over time that kind of built their trust. And then, great, you have this chat, you can ask it more questions about the bill. What has changed? All of that. And then the next thing we want to do is we're just going to start auto-tracking the bills for you. So we have kind of not jump to what we wanted to do all along, because we knew that users are not going to trust it right away. We've done that. We have our power users, though, that are helping to kind of be the champions within their organization. So we do a lot with those users of events, of different like user group sessions. And then the other thing we did is kind of launch some certifications, like become an expert in prompting, become an expert in AI, and everybody kind of likes to show that off usually, and it's helping to teach them what you should trust it for, what you shouldn't trust it for, but it's definitely going to be a long game, you know, to get everybody on board.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that too. We track the adoption funnel for agent analytics very closely, and we often see, like, especially at the beginning, there was kind of a drop off after there gets to be like the legal checkbox. And it makes sense that even using a tool like Agent Analytics, it usually often has to go through some sort of legal review. And we wanted to be able to support customers as quickly as possible with like how do they get that through the approval process. So transparency is also really key. We actually had our chief legal officer write an article specifically about how we capture and analyze data for Agent Analytics. So apart from just our regular help center resources, that's also been really helpful because it comes directly from his voice. And then we also have customer advisory boards that are specific to different industries. So we also found in speaking with customers in a closer room, especially like financial institutions where they are more like legal and security minded, we asked them how they move it through the approval process, who does it need to go to, what information to what people, and then we kind of documented that for ourselves as like a rinse and repeat process that then we can arm other users with of, hey, here's how you should approach the conversations, here's the resources that you need.
think
Yeah,
one more?
maybe one more.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it will be quick. Nick from NASDAQ, thanks for this today, this was great. So in regards to actually security, so due to the nature of our customers at NASDAQ and the board portal software that we have, and just, you know, it's in regards to board materials that will never see the light of day besides the board of directors that are actually looking at them, our agent, we legally and from a compliance perspective can't see conversations. So I was wondering if you guys come across clients that have agents that they can't track the conversations, and what would the benefit of, rather than just feature tracking and tagging the actual agent itself, what's the benefit of using agent analytics if you can't ever see the conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do run into this a lot. So if your legal team has requirements they'd like us to meet, we're happy to meet with them and chat through that. Today, the way that we answer that question is twofold. The first one is that inside of agent analytics, you have the ability to have two different roles. For people that have access to the overarching information, so the use cases, being able to see the top line issues, but not the actual conversation and the back and forth itself. And so that gives you an idea of, like, directionally, how is the data trending, so that you're able to identify those issues ahead of time and maybe send them to engineers who can look at that data and try to pinpoint and identify where the challenges are happening. The second thing that we're doing is we've actually put some privacy filters up at the top of our ingestion process, so that we tried our best effort to not capture any PII as the data's come in, and then that gets stored in on the other end. And so we've answered that question in both of those ways. We have some more ideas on our back pocket for customers such as yourself, but it's been one of those things where we'd love to get more feedback from customers like you to understand where we could go next to help you. Awesome. And I think we're up on time. I see a red blinking light. So thank you so much, you guys. Appreciate it.
Come by our booth for more questions.
Yes.
Yeah.